The massive alien ship appeared above Earth without warning. It was bigger than anything humanity had ever built, stretching across the sky like a metal moon. Commander Taman stood on the bridge of the orbital defense station, watching the monitors with growing concern. His hands gripped the edge of the console as the readings came in. The ship was not attacking. It was just waiting. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," said the communications officer, her voice tight with tension. Taman nodded. "Put it through." The screen flickered to life, showing a creature that looked nothing like a human. Its skin was pale blue and its eyes were too large for its narrow face. When it spoke, the translator turned its words into flat, emotionless English. "This is the Sovereignty flagship Eternal Arbiter. We demand the immediate surrender of your vessel designated Defiant Dawn. You have 48 hours to comply." Taman felt his stomach drop. The Defiant Dawn was Earth's newest ship, still in testing phase near Mars. "On what grounds?" he asked carefully. "Your vessel violates the Treaty of Celestial Arms. We have detected weapon signatures that exceed permitted levels for species of your development stage. Surrender the ship for inspection or face consequences." The transmission ended before Taman could respond. He immediately contacted Earth's government and requested an emergency meeting with Ambassador Heejin. 2 hours later, Taman sat in a secure conference room with the ambassador and several military officials. Heejin was a calm woman in her 50s, known for her skill in negotiation. She had spent the last 15 years building relationships with alien species after humanity discovered faster-than-light travel. But even she looked worried now. "They can't just demand we hand over our property," said Admiral Sang-woo, slamming his fist on the table. He was older than Heejin, with gray hair and sharp eyes. "This is our sovereign territory. Technically, we agreed to the treaty when we joined the Galactic Council," Heejin replied. "If they believe we violated the terms, they have the right to inspect." "The right to inspect, yes. But not to demand surrender without even a hearing," Sang-woo countered. "This is a power play. They want to see what we've built, and they're using the treaty as an excuse." Taman cleared his throat. "What exactly did we build?" "I've seen the Defiant Dawn's public specifications. It's advanced, but it shouldn't trigger this kind of response." Sang-woo and Heejin exchanged glances. The Admiral sighed and pulled up a classified file on the screen. 3 months ago, our deep space monitoring picked up something unusual. An asteroid was on collision course with a mining colony. The Defiant Dawn was nearby, still in testing. Captain Jae-won decided to intervene. The screen showed grainy footage from a probe. The Defiant Dawn, a sleek vessel painted in dark gray, moved toward the massive asteroid. Then something impossible happened. The space around the ship seemed to bend like light through water. A beam of pure white energy shot from the ship's forward section. When it hit the asteroid, the rock didn't explode. It simply vanished as if it had never existed. "What was that?" Taman whispered. "That," Sang-woo said quietly, "is why they're here." Heejin leaned forward. "Our FTL technology is different from theirs. Every other species in the galaxy received their faster-than-light drives from the Sovereignty. They were uplifted, given technology after they proved themselves civilized. We discovered our own method. And our method works differently." "How differently?" asked Taman. "Their ships push through space. Our ships fold it. We manipulate the fabric of reality itself." Sang-woo's expression was grim. "The Defiant Dawn can do more than travel fast. It can change the rules of physics in a limited area around itself. That asteroid didn't explode. We removed it from this dimension entirely." Taman sat back, stunned. "And they detected this?" "A Sovereignty probe was in the system. It recorded everything." Sang-woo closed the file. "They've known for 3 months. They've been watching us, studying us, trying to figure out what we're capable of. Now they've decided we're too dangerous." The room fell silent. Finally, Heejin spoke. "I'll request a formal hearing before the full council." "If I can buy us time." "They won't give us time," interrupted a new voice. Intelligence Officer Da-yoon entered the room carrying a data pad. She was young, in her early 30s, with sharp features and sharper instincts. "I've been monitoring Sovereignty communications. They're not interested in dialogue. They're afraid." She handed the pad to Heejin. "Look at the fleet composition. They brought 12 escort ships, all carrying heavy weapons. They're not here for a conversation. They're here to make sure we comply by force if necessary. Then we're out of options. Hyejin said softly. Not quite. Sang-woo stood up and walked to the window, looking out at Earth below. There's a reason I built 13 of those ships, not one. And there's a reason they're all currently stationed at different points around the solar system. Taemin understood immediately. You're going to run. I'm going to make them follow us. Away from Earth, away from populated systems. If they want to see what humanity built, they can see it on our terms. Sang-woo turned back to face them. The neutral zone at the galaxy's edge. Nothing there but empty space and dead stars. Perfect place for a demonstration. That's insane, Hyejin protested. You'll start a war. No, I'll prevent one. Sang-woo's voice was firm. Right now, they think we're hiding something dangerous. They think we might be a threat. If we surrender meekly, they'll always see us as subordinates. If we show them what we can do in a controlled situation where no one gets hurt, maybe they'll see us as equals. Dayan nodded slowly. It could work. If you can get there without anyone getting killed. That's where Captain Jae-won comes in. Sang-woo pulled up a communication channel. A young man's face appeared on the screen. He looked barely 30, with an eager expression and nervous energy. This was the captain of the Defiant Dawn, sir, Jae-won said, glancing around at the assembled group. Change of plans, Captain. You're leaving Mars orbit immediately. Set course for the neutral zone. Maximum speed. Don't stop for anything. Jae-won's eyes widened. Sir, the Sovereignty fleet will follow us. I'm counting on it. Just make sure they can't catch you until you reach the destination.
Can you do that?
For a moment, Jae-won looked uncertain. Then his expression hardened with determination. Yes, sir. My crew is ready. Good, you launch in 2 hours. The other 12 ships will join you at rally points along the way. By the time you reach the neutral zone, you'll have a full fleet. The screen went dark. Hyejin stood up, gathering her things. I'm going to the Eternal Arbiter. If I'm aboard their flagship as a diplomatic guest, they'll be forced to follow protocol. It might buy Jae-won a few extra hours. Ambassador, that's dangerous, Taemin warned. She smiled sadly. Commander, we're past safe options. Now we choose between types of danger. I'd rather be where I can watch them and maybe influence their decisions. As the meeting broke up, Taemin found himself standing alone with Da-eun. She was staring at the star map on the wall, her expression troubled. What is it? He asked. I keep thinking about that asteroid. The way it just vanished. She turned to look at him. Sir, what if they're right to be afraid? What if we built something we don't fully understand? Taemin had no answer for that. In 2 hours, Captain Jae-won would run. The Sovereignty would chase, and somewhere in the darkness between stars, humanity would either prove it deserved a place among the great powers of the galaxy, or confirm every fear the aliens had about them. He looked up at the ceiling, thinking of the massive alien ship hovering above their planet, and whispered a prayer he hadn't spoken since childhood. Then he went to prepare for whatever came next. The clock was ticking. 48 hours until the deadline. But Earth wasn't going to wait. They were going to run and show the galaxy that humanity didn't ask for permission anymore. Captain Jae-won stood on the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, watching the countdown timer tick toward 0. Around him, his crew worked with focused intensity, preparing for an emergency departure that would break every safety regulation in the book. Behind them, Mars filled the view screen, red and beautiful and about to become very small. Helm, status? Jae-won asked. Lieutenant Bo-ra looked up from her controls. She was young, barely 25, but she had been a racing pilot before joining the military. Her hands moved across the interface with practiced ease. Ready, sir? I've plotted 3 different escape routes. If they try to intercept, I can switch between them. Good. Engineering. Full drive charged and ready, replied Engineer Kyung-soo over the comm. He sounded nervous, which wasn't reassuring. Kyung-soo had helped design this ship. If he was worried, maybe everyone should be. The timer hit 0. All stations, this is the captain. We are departing now. Hold on. Bo-ra's fingers danced across her controls. The Defiant Dawn lurched forward, accelerating hard enough to make the inertial dampeners whine. Mars Orbital Control was shouting at them, demanding they stop, but Jae-won had his orders. They couldn't stop. Not now. 3 Sovereignty cruisers that had been holding position near Mars suddenly changed course. They were faster than Jae-won had expected, closing the distance in seconds. Warning alarm screamed across the bridge. They're locking weapons. Someone shouted, Bo-ra, now! Jae-won commanded, the full drive engaged. But instead of jumping to light speed and leaving the solar system, Bora did something insane. She made the ship jump just a few thousand kilometers, while still deep inside Mars's gravity well. Physics said this should tear the ship apart. The gravity should disrupt the fold and scatter their atoms across space. Instead, the Defiant Dawn flickered and reappeared behind the Sovereignty cruisers. Before they could react, Bora punched the engines and the ship shot away into deep space. Jump successful, Bora reported, breathing hard. I can't believe that worked. Neither could Jaewon, but he kept that thought to himself. Well done, Lieutenant. Take us to the first rally point, and try to use more conventional jumps from now on. Bora grinned. Where's the fun in that, sir? Behind them, the Sovereignty fleet regrouped and gave chase. But now the Defiant Dawn had a head start, and Jaewon intended to keep it that way. On the Eternal Arbiter, Ambassador Hai-Jin watched the escape on a monitor. She was standing in what the aliens called an observation gallery, a room with transparent walls that showed the stars. High Arbiter Vexthor stood beside her, his alien face unreadable. Your ship just performed an impossible maneuver, he said quietly. Folding space inside a gravity well should be fatal. Perhaps your understanding of what's possible needs updating, Hai-Jin replied carefully. Vexthor turned to look at her. This is exactly what concerns us, Ambassador. Every species in this galaxy learned physics from us. We gave them the rules. Your species learned alone and you learned differently. You don't follow our rules because you never knew them. Is that so terrible? She asked. Different perspectives lead to innovation. Different perspectives lead to catastrophe when dealing with forces that can destroy worlds. Vexthor gestured at the screen. 12,000 years ago, another species discovered technology like yours. They could fold space, manipulate reality. They thought they understood what they were doing. Then one day they folded space one time too many, and their entire star system collapsed into quantum uncertainty. 3 billion people died in an instant, and we still can't go near that region of space. It's a wound in reality that won't heal. Hai-Jin felt cold. You never told us this. You never asked. You were too busy being proud of your achievement. Vexthor walked away, leaving her alone with the stars and terrible new knowledge. The Defiant Dawn raced through space, jumping from system to system. At each rally point, another Earth ship joined them. The fleet grew. 2 ships, then 4, then 7. The Sovereignty fleet followed, always just hours behind. They were good, Jaewon had to admit. Their coordination was perfect. Their jumps calculated to the microsecond. They had been doing this for thousands of years, and it showed. But Bora was better. She flew like she was born in space, finding shortcuts through gravity wells, using stellar radiation to mask their jumps. She was keeping them ahead, but barely. Captain, we're receiving a coded transmission from Admiral Sang-woo, reported the communications officer. Jaewon read the message and felt his blood run cold. He called Kyung-soo to the bridge immediately. The engineer arrived minutes later, looking tired. Sir? The Admiral wants to know why our power output is lower than expected. He's asking if we have a malfunction. Jaewon stared at him. Do we? Kyung-soo looked at the floor. Not exactly a malfunction, sir. Then what? I installed limiters. Before we launched, the fold drive is running at 30% capacity. Kyung-soo's voice was barely a whisper. I was afraid of what might happen at full power. The bridge went silent. Bora turned in her chair, staring at the engineer in disbelief. You did what? I'm sorry. I know it was wrong. But you don't understand what this ship can really do. At full power, we don't just fold space. We rewrite it. We can make matter exist and not exist simultaneously. We can create paradoxes. I ran the calculations 100 times and every simulation ended badly. Jaewon wanted to be angry, but he couldn't quite manage it. Kyung-soo looked genuinely terrified, and maybe that was the appropriate response. Can you remove the limiters now? Yes, but no buts. The Admiral ordered this mission. We need every advantage. Jaewon softened his tone. I understand your fear, Kyung-soo. I really do. But right now, we need to trust the technology we built. Can you do that? Kyung-soo nodded slowly. I'll remove them. But Captain, please be careful. The power we're playing with, it's not like anything else in the galaxy. After he left, Bora looked at Jaewon with concern. Sir, was he right? Are we in danger? Probably, Jaewon admitted. But we were always in danger. That's what happens when you do something new. You don't know all the risks until you take them. They reached the next rally point and found 3 more ships waiting. 10 vessels now, all identical to the Defiant Dawn. The fleet moved together, a formation of human engineering that defied the galaxy's expectations. Intelligence Officer Daun had managed to insert a monitoring program into the Sovereignty Communications Network. She sat in a small room on Earth, listening to enemy transmissions and translating them for Admiral Sang-woo. "They're arguing," she reported. "Some of their commanders want to break off the chase. They think it's a trap. But War Counselor Threx is overruling them. He says humanity is testing boundaries and they need to respond with strength." "Are they calling for reinforcements?" Sang-woo asked. "No, they think their current fleet is sufficient." Daun paused. "Sir, they're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to contain us. There's a difference in their tactical approach. They want to surround the Defiant Dawn and force it to stop, not blow it out of space. That's something, at least." Sang-woo studied the star maps. "How long until Jaewon reaches the neutral zone?" 17 hours at current speed. Tell him to push harder. And send the signal to the remaining ships. I want all 13 vessels at the destination before the Sovereignty arrives." Daun hesitated. "Sir, what if they decide we're too dangerous? What if they try to destroy Earth while our fleet is away?" Sang-woo had thought about that possibility many times. "Then we'll have to trust that Ambassador Hye-jin can stop them. She's good at her job, Daun. Maybe the best we've ever had. If anyone can make them see reason, it's her." On the Eternal Arbiter, Hye-jin was working hard to do exactly that. She had requested meetings with various council members, arguing humanity's case to anyone who would listen. Some were sympathetic. Others were hostile. Most were simply afraid. "Your species is reckless," one council member told her. "You've had faster-than-light travel for only 15 years, and already you're building weapons that scare us. What will you do in 50 years? 100? "We'll grow," Hye-jin replied. "We'll learn. We'll make mistakes and fix them, just like every other species in history. Other species had guidance. You refuse it. We don't refuse guidance. We refuse domination. There's a difference." The council member had no answer for that and left looking troubled. The Defiant Dawn and its sister ships jumped into the neutral zone with hours to spare. J1 positioned them in a wide formation, all facing the direction the Sovereignty fleet would arrive from. His hands were shaking slightly, and he clenched them into fists to stop the trembling. "Bora, status of the full drive?" "Full power, sir. Limiters removed. We're ready for anything." "Let's hope we don't need to be." The Sovereignty fleet arrived 12 minutes later. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately saw what was waiting for them. 13 human ships hanging in space like a challenge. Admiral Sang-woo's face appeared on every screen, broadcasting to both fleets. "High Arbiter Vexthor, you wanted to see our ship. Now you see our fleet. This is humanity's answer to your ultimatum. We will not surrender. We will not submit to inspection like criminals, but we will show you what we can do. Watch carefully, and then decide if we're the threat you think we are." High Arbiter Vexthor stared at the 13 human ships with something close to dread. He had lived for 300 years and commanded fleets in a dozen conflicts. He had seen strange technologies and impossible weapons. But something about these vessels made his skin crawl with instinctive fear. "Open a channel to Admiral Sang-woo," he ordered. The human's face appeared on screen moments later. The Admiral looked calm, almost relaxed, which made Vexthor even more nervous. Calm people were either very confident or very dangerous, sometimes both. "Admiral, this display of force is unnecessary," Vexthor said. "We came for an inspection, not a battle." "Then let's not have a battle," Sang-woo replied. "Let's have a demonstration instead. We'll show you what our ships can do. After that, you can make an informed decision about whether we're a threat. And if we refuse? Then we sit here in the neutral zone forever, I suppose. Neither of us wants that." Sang-woo leaned forward. "High Arbiter, we're offering you transparency." "Isn't that what you wanted?" Vexthor considered. Behind him, War Counselor Threx whispered urgently, "It's a trap. They'll attack once we lower our guard." But Vexthor didn't think so. The humans could have attacked already if they wanted. Their positioning gave them tactical advantage. No, they wanted something else. They wanted to prove a point. "Very well," Vexthor said finally. "What do you propose?" Sang-woo gestured off-screen and a star map appeared. 5 light hours from here is a dead system. Nothing lives there, hasn't for thousands of years. Just debris from an ancient civilization. Your own laws forbid anyone from entering it. We're going to clear a path through that debris field. You'll see exactly what our technology can do. Clearing debris requires significant firepower, Vexthor noted. You want to demonstrate weapons? No, I want to demonstrate something better than weapons. Just watch. The Sovereignty fleet followed the human ships to the dead system. As they approached, Vexthor saw the debris field on his screens. It was massive, stretching for millions of kilometers. Fragments of buildings, ships, satellites, all the remains of a civilization that destroyed itself 10,000 years ago. The Sovereignty had declared it a memorial. No one was allowed to touch it. They're violating sanctuary law, Threx said angrily. But Ambassador He Jin, who had been silent until now, spoke up. With respect, Counselor, this system is abandoned. No one lives here. No one claims it. And if we're going to demonstrate what we can do, better here than near inhabited worlds. She had a point, and Vexthor knew it. He nodded for the demonstration to continue. Captain Jaewon received his orders and took a deep breath. Bora, take us in. Standard approach. Yes, sir. The Defiant Dawn moved forward, approaching the debris field. Huge chunks of ancient metal floated in the darkness, each one large enough to crush a ship. Bora navigated carefully, avoiding the larger pieces. Target acquired, reported the tactical officer. Debris cluster Delta 7. Multiple large fragments in a 300-kilometer spread. Good. Prepare the fold field, but don't activate yet. J1 opened a channel to the other 12 ships. All vessels maintain position. Single ship demonstration only. On the Eternal Arbiter, every screen was focused on the human ship. Vexthor watched intently, trying to predict what would happen. Would they fire missiles? Energy weapons? Some kind of explosive? What happened next was something else entirely. The space around the Defiant Dawn began to shimmer. It looked like heat waves on a desert, but in the vacuum of space. The shimmer spread outward, growing larger until it encompassed the entire debris cluster. Then, in an instant that made Vexthor's eyes hurt to watch, the debris simply stopped existing. Not exploded. Not disintegrated. It was just gone, as if it had never been there at all. By the ancient stars, Threx whispered. They erased matter. Science Officer Min-jae, aboard the Defiant Dawn, was monitoring the fold field carefully. He saw the readings and felt sick. They hadn't destroyed the debris. They had pushed it into another dimension, folded it out of normal space-time. It still existed technically, but not in this reality. Captain, the field is stable, he reported. No anomalies detected. Good. Bring us back to the fleet. As the Defiant Dawn returned, Vexthor was already composing his report in his head. This was worse than he feared. Far worse. Humanity hadn't built weapons. They had built reality manipulation tools, and they were using them casually, like it was the simplest thing in the world. We need to discuss this, he told Hyejin coldly. I agree, she said. But first, there's something you should know. We didn't choose this demonstration randomly. Our sensors detected something in that debris field. Something active, impossible. This system has been dead for... Alarms cut him off. Every screen suddenly showed the same warning. Energy signatures. Massive ones. Coming from deep within the debris field, something was waking up. Captain Jaewon saw it on his screens and cursed. A structure was rising from the debris, emerging like a whale from dark water. It was enormous, bigger than any ship in either fleet. Ancient metal covered in symbols no one could read. And it was powering up. What is that? Bora asked in a small voice. Automated defense system, Min-jae said, his fingers flying over his console. It must have been dormant. Our fold field triggered it. The energy signature woke it up. Kyung-soo's voice came over the comm, panicked. Captain, I'm reading weapon charges. Multiple systems. It's targeting both fleets. The ancient defense system fired. Beams of impossible color lanced through space. They looked almost alive, writhing like serpents as they crossed the distance in microseconds. The Sovereignty fleet scattered immediately, their shields rising. 3 cruisers took direct hits. Their shields held, but barely. Warning lights flashed across their bridges. The Eternal Arbiter took a hit that penetrated their legendary armor. Vexthor felt the ship shudder. Damage report! Hull breach on Deck 7. We're sealing it now. Shields at 60%. Threx was shouting orders, trying to coordinate the fleet's response. But their doctrine was clear. Ancient defense systems were never engaged. They were too unpredictable, too dangerous. We need to retreat. But Vexthor saw something that made him hesitate. The human ships weren't running. They were moving into formation. Jaewon received the order from Admiral Sang-woo just as the second wave of attacks began. Pattern 7, all ships. Execute now. Pattern 7 acknowledged, Bora said. Her hands moved with impossible speed. The 13 human ships began to move, but they didn't scatter like the Sovereignty fleet. They danced. There was no other word for it. They wove between the ancient weapon beams like they were performing a ballet. Space folded around them, not to attack but to redirect. Enemy fire bent through impossible angles, emerging light years away in empty space. Not one shot touched a human ship. How are they doing that? Threx demanded. Hijin watched with pride and fear mixed together. They're not fighting it. They're changing the battlefield itself. The ancient defense system fired again and again, but the human fleet stayed ahead of every attack. Then slowly they began to move closer, not to destroy the system but to surround it. Commodore Yunji commanded the escort fleet from her ship. She had studied ancient Earth naval tactics back when ships fought on water instead of space. She knew that the best way to defeat a superior enemy wasn't always to overpower them. Sometimes you had to outsmart them. All ships tighten the formation. Pattern 7 Delta. Make it think we're attacking from multiple angles. The human ships moved in a pattern that looked random but wasn't. Every move was calculated. The defense system's sensors couldn't track all 13 targets simultaneously. It kept switching between them, trying to prioritize threats. But there were no threats. The humans weren't attacking, they were confusing it. Min-Jae saw what they were doing and had a crazy idea. Captain, that system is probably using some kind of quantum targeting computer. If we can create enough interference patterns with our fold fields, we might be able to communicate with it. Communicate? Jaewon stared at him. It's trying to kill us. It's trying to kill what it perceives as invaders. But what if we can tell it we're not enemies? Ancient civilizations used quantum encoding for data storage. Our fold technology manipulates quantum states. We might be able to send a message it can understand. It was insane. But everything about this situation was insane. Do it. Min-Jae began programming a message using fold field modulations. He didn't know if it would work. He didn't even know what to say. In the end, he sent the simplest message he could think of. We mean no harm. We are explorers, not destroyers. The defense system fired again. This time, all 13 human ships folded space simultaneously, creating a quantum interference pattern that spelled out the message in 3 dimensions across space-time. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The ancient weapons kept charging. Then they stopped. The defense system hung in space, silent. Its power readings dropped. The lights along its hull flickered and then stabilized into a different pattern. It was responding. I'm receiving data, Min-Jae said, his voice shaking. It's transmitting schematics, history files, warnings. The data flooded into the Defiant Dawn's computers. Thousands of years of information compressed into minutes. Min-Jae tried to process it all, but there was too much. The journey back from the neutral zone took 2 days. 2 days of silence between the human and sovereignty fleets. They traveled separately, maintaining a careful distance. No one fired weapons, but no one relaxed either. The tension hung in space like an invisible wall. Captain Jaewon spent most of that time in his quarters, reading through the data the ancient defense system had transmitted. Science officer Min-Jae had organized it into sections, but there was so much information that Jaewon's head hurt trying to process it all. One file kept drawing his attention. It was labeled simply The Last Warning. He opened it again, reading words written by beings dead for 10,000 years. They had been proud of their technology, confident in their understanding of quantum mechanics and dimensional folding. Then on a day that should have been like any other, they activated their planetary defense grid at full power. All systems synchronized, creating what they thought would be an impenetrable shield. Instead, they created a cascade failure. Reality itself began to collapse, folding in on itself like paper. 3 billion people died instantly as their atoms were redistributed across 17 different dimensions. The survivors, those in ships far from the planet, could only watch as their home vanished into quantum uncertainty. The file ended with a single sentence. We thought we were gods. We were children playing with fire. Jaewon closed the file and rubbed his eyes. They had shown the sovereignty what humanity could do. But the ancient civilization had been able to do the same things, and it killed them. What made humans think they would be any different? A knock on his door pulled him from dark thoughts. Come in. Lieutenant Bora entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed him one and sat down without asking permission. They had flown together long enough that formality sometimes slipped. You look terrible, sir, she said bluntly. Thanks. I feel terrible, He sipped the coffee. It was too hot and too bitter, exactly what he needed. Have you read the ancient data? Some of it. The parts about their ship designs are fascinating. They had vessels that could fold through 40 dimensions simultaneously. She paused. They also had a 90% accident rate because nobody really understood how the technology worked. They just used it, like us. Maybe, or maybe we're smarter. She didn't sound convinced. Minjai has been going through the technical specifications. He thinks he found something important. He wants to brief the command staff when we reach council space. Jaewon nodded.
Schedule it.
We need to know what we're dealing with before we face the council. On the Eternal Arbiter, Ambassador Hee-jin was having her own difficult conversations. She had been invited to dinner with High Arbiter Vexthor, which she knew meant a serious discussion disguised as courtesy. They ate in his private quarters, a room decorated with artifacts from a dozen worlds. The food was some kind of synthesized protein that tasted like nothing Hee-jin had ever experienced. She ate politely anyway. Your people surprised me, Vexthor said after a long silence. I thought they would destroy the defense system. Instead, they communicated with it. We prefer understanding to destruction when possible, Hee-jin replied. A noble sentiment, but understanding requires wisdom and wisdom requires time. Your species has neither. Vexthor set down his utensil. Do you know why the sovereignty controls technology distribution so carefully? To maintain power, Hee-jin said honestly. There was no point in pretending. Yes, but not for the reasons you think. Vexthor stood and walked to a window showing the stars. 12,000 years ago, this galaxy had 57 spacefaring species. Today, there are 13. Do you know what happened to the other 44? Hee-jin felt cold. They destroyed themselves. Most of them, yes. Some discovered weapons they couldn't control. Others created artificial intelligence that turned against them. A few simply expanded too quickly and collapsed under their own complexity. He turned to face her. Only 13 species learned to survive by being careful. We formed the sovereignty to prevent more extinctions. When we find a new species with potential, we guide them slowly. Give them technology they can handle. Teach them patience, and if they don't want guidance, then they become another statistic. Vexthor's expression was sad. I don't enjoy being the galaxy's parent, Ambassador. But someone must do it. The alternative is watching more civilizations burn themselves to ashes. Hee-jin chose her words carefully. What if there's a third option? What if humanity shares our technology with you? We work together to understand it, make it safer. You have 12,000 years of experience. We have fresh perspectives. Together we might achieve something neither could alone. An interesting proposal, but it requires trust, and trust must be earned. Vexthor returned to his seat. The council will vote on humanity's fate in one day. I cannot tell you which way the vote will go, but I will tell you this. Convince us that you understand the danger you're playing with. Convince us that you won't become the 45th extinction. Do that and we might have something to build on. The fleets arrived at council space separately. The council chamber orbited a neutron star, a massive structure built in neutral territory where no single species had advantage. Ships from 12 different civilizations were docked there, representing the full membership of the Sovereignty Admiral Sang-woo. Ambassador Hee-jin, Captain Jae-won, and Engineer Kyung-soo entered the chamber together. It was enormous, with seating for hundreds. Today, every seat was filled. Aliens of all shapes and sizes watched as the humans took their position at the center. High Arbiter Vexthor presided from an elevated platform. This council convenes to address the matter of humanity's quantum folding technology. The charges are reckless development of reality manipulation systems and violation of the Treaty of Celestial Arms. How does Earth respond? Admiral Sang-woo stepped forward. He had rehearsed this speech 100 times, but his mouth was still dry. We acknowledge that our technology is powerful and potentially dangerous. We do not deny that we developed it independently, without sovereignty guidance. But we reject the charge of recklessness. Everything we've done has been calculated, tested, and controlled. Yet, you didn't inform the Council of your capabilities. Until we forced the issue, countered War Counselor Threx. That suggests you knew the technology was forbidden? No, it suggests we knew the technology would frighten you, and fear makes people act irrationally. Sang-woo's voice was firm. We're here now, openly sharing what we can do. If we wanted to hide, we could have. Instead, we chose transparency. Transparency after being caught, Threx shot back. That's not trust. That's damage control. Ambassador Hyojin spoke up. With respect, Counselor, we were caught because we used our technology to save a mining colony. We could have let those people die and kept our capabilities secret. We chose to act knowing it might expose us. Does that sound like a species planning conquest? There was murmuring among the council members. Hyojin had scored a point and everyone knew it. Then a voice from the back spoke. It belonged to Arbiter Cole, representing one of the oldest species in the sovereignty. I have reviewed the data from the neutral zone encounter. The ancient defense system transmitted historical records to the human fleet. May we see these records? Science Officer Minjae had been waiting for this. He activated his presentation, and holographic displays filled the chamber. The civilization that built the defense system was called the Ven. They discovered quantum dimensional folding approximately 12,000 years ago. Their technology developed rapidly, far faster than their understanding of the underlying principles. He showed images reconstructed from the Ven data, beautiful cities on a world of blue oceans, ships that could cross the galaxy in hours. A society that seemed peaceful and prosperous. They believed they had mastered reality manipulation. Their scientists assured them the technology was safe. They were wrong. Minjae's voice grew quieter. This is their homeworld 3 seconds before the cascade failure began. The image showed the planet from orbit. Then in the space between one heartbeat and the next it folded. Reality bent around it like paper crumpling. The planet didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist in normal spacetime, taking 3 billion lives with it. The council chamber fell silent. Even the most hostile members looked shaken. This is what happens, Minjae continued, when quantum folding technology is used without proper understanding. The Ven thought they knew enough. They were confident. And they were wrong. He paused. We know we're walking the same path. We know the danger. That's why we're here. Engineer Kyung-soo stood up, surprising everyone. He had been silent until now, content to let others speak. But his guilt had been eating at him for days, and he couldn't stay quiet anymore. I sabotaged our ships, he said bluntly. Before we launched the Defiant Dawn, I installed limiters on the fold drives. I was afraid of what might happen at full power. I was afraid we'd make the same mistakes the Ven made. He looked directly at Vexthor. I did it without authorization because I knew others wouldn't understand. They were too excited about what we could do. They weren't thinking about what we shouldn't do. These limiters, Vexthor asked carefully, are they still active? No. Admiral Sangwoo ordered them removed during our flight to the neutral zone. Captain Jaewon stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 23 Mars ships had appeared at the edge of the system, all of them carrying quantum folding drives. But these weren't the careful, limited designs Earth had built. The energy signatures were raw, unrefined, running at dangerous levels. How did they build so many so fast? Bora whispered beside him. Engineer Kyung-soo's face had gone pale. The schematics. When I transmitted updates to Earth during testing, the colonial networks intercepted them. They must have been building in secret for months. Admiral Sangwoo's voice cut through the chaos on all human channels. All Earth vessels hold position. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage. But the Mars fleet wasn't waiting for orders from Earth. Their commander, Commodore Tae-yang, broadcast again. He was a man in his 50s with hard eyes and a voice full of conviction. We left Earth because we wanted freedom. We built a new society on Mars, governed ourselves, made our own decisions. Then Earth decided to speak for all humanity to the galaxy. No one asked us. No one consulted us. We're tired of Earth thinking it owns us. High Arbiter Vexthor stood on the bridge of the Eternal Arbiter, watching the situation spiral out of control. Admiral Sangwoo, you claimed humanity was united. You claimed you spoke for your species. I thought I did. Sangwoo replied quietly. I was wrong. War Counselor Threx was already mobilizing defensive fleets. This is exactly what we feared. Humanity can't even control itself, and you want us to trust you with reality-warping technology? Madness. Ambassador Hyojin felt everything they had worked for slipping away. She opened a direct channel to the Mars fleet. Commodore Tae-yang, this is Ambassador Hyojin. Please, let's talk before anyone does something we'll all regret. Talk? Tae-yang's laugh was bitter. Earth had years to talk to us, years to recognize our independence. Instead, you treated us like children. Like property. Well, we're done being owned. We don't own you, Hyojin insisted. But this isn't the way to claim independence. Threatening the Galactic Council will unite them against all humanity, including Mars. Let them try. Taeyang's image leaned forward on the screen. We have 37 ships, Ambassador. More in production. We study the ancient Ven civilization's data too. We know what these drives can do at full power. If the sovereignty wants to force us into submission, we'll show them what humanity really looks like when we fight for our freedom. The channel cut out. Hyjin turned to Vexthor with desperate urgency. Give us time. Let us handle this internally. Don't let this destroy everything we just built. But Threx was shaking his head. You heard him. They're threatening us. This proves humanity is too fractured, too aggressive to be trusted. Captain Jaewon made a decision without consulting anyone. Bora, move us between the fleets. Position the Defiant Dawn directly in the line of fire if either side attacks. Sir? Bora looked at him like he had lost his mind. Do it. That's an order. The Defiant Dawn broke formation and accelerated, placing itself between the Council's defensive fleet and the Mars vessels. The other 12 Earth ships followed, creating a barrier of human vessels between two forces on the edge of conflict. Captain Jaewon, what are you doing? Sang-woo demanded over the comm. Preventing a war, sir. If anyone wants to shoot, they'll have to go through us first. On the Eternal Arbiter, Vexthor watched this development with a mixture of confusion and something that might have been respect. Is this human military doctrine? Using yourselves as shields? No, Hyjin said softly. This is human desperation, and it might be the bravest thing I've ever seen. Taeyang's voice came over the speakers again, but this time directed at Jaewon. Captain, move your ships. This doesn't concern Earth's fleet. This is between Mars and the sovereignty. It concerns all of us, Jaewon replied. If you fire on the Council, they'll destroy Mars, every colony, every city, every life you're trying to protect. Is that what you want? We won't fire first, but we won't surrender either. Lieutenant Bora was monitoring the Mars ship's power signatures and didn't like what she saw. Captain, their fold drives are running unstable. Those signatures are fluctuating. I don't think they fully understand what they built. Science Officer Minjai confirmed it. She's right. Their power distribution is chaotic. They're operating at 95% capacity with no safety protocols. If they try to use those drives for combat maneuvers, there's a significant chance of cascade failure. Just like the Ven, Jaewon thought. They built the weapons without understanding the danger. He opened a channel directly to the Mars flagship. Commodore Taeyang, your drives are unstable. We're reading dangerous fluctuations in your quantum field generators. If you engage in combat, you might trigger exactly what happened to the Ven homeworld. You're lying, trying to scare us into backing down. I'm trying to save your lives. Jaewon pulled up the technical data and transmitted it. Look at your own readings. Your power cores are running too hot. The fold drives are creating resonance patterns that could cascade. Every minute you keep them at combat readiness increases the risk. There was silence on the channel. Jaewon hoped that meant Taeyang was actually checking the data. On Mars's flagship Pride of Olympus, Taeyang was doing exactly that. His chief engineer, a woman named Su Jin, had pulled up the diagnostics Jaewon sent. Her face went white as she read them. Commodore, he's right. We've been pushing the drives too hard. I thought the heat spikes were normal. But this data shows they're pre-cascade indicators. If we engage in combat maneuvers, especially multiple ships simultaneously, we could create a quantum resonance field. Speak plainly, Taeyang demanded. We could accidentally fold Mars out of existence, sir, along with everyone on it. The blood drained from Taeyang's face. Mars had 12 million people. 12 million lives he was responsible for protecting. How long until the drives stabilize? If we power down to 30%? 4 hours minimum. 4 hours. 4 hours of vulnerability. 4 hours for the sovereignty to attack if they wanted. Taeyang had trapped himself with his own weapons. Ambassador Hyjin saw the opening and took it. Commodore, power down your drives. Let us send engineering teams to help stabilize them. In exchange, Earth will support Mars's petition for independent representation on the Galactic Council. You wanted recognition? We'll help you get it the right way. And if the sovereignty attacks while we're vulnerable? Vexthor spoke for the first time. We will not. You have my word as High Arbiter. Power down your weapons, accept technical assistance, and we will negotiate. No one needs to die today. Taeyang looked around his bridge. His crew was scared. They had come here ready to fight for freedom. but they hadn't realized they were also risking their own extinction. Finally, he nodded. Stand down. Power drives to 30%. Accept the engineering assistance. The tension in both fleets dropped immediately. Crisis averted, at least for now. Engineer Kyung-soo led the team that transferred to the Mars ships. What he found there horrified him. They had built the fold drives correctly, but they had skipped every safety system. No limiters. No automatic shutdown protocols. No quantum field stabilizers. It was like building a nuclear reactor without control rods. Why? He asked Soo-jin, Mars's chief engineer. You knew the risks. We knew Earth had safety systems, she replied. We thought they were just being overcautious. We thought we could handle the power. She looked ashamed. We were wrong. It took 3 days to stabilize all the Mars ships. 3 days of tense negotiation between Earth, Mars, and the Sovereignty. In the end, a compromise was reached. Mars would receive independent representation on a new human council that would speak with one voice to the Galactic Sovereignty. Earth, Mars, and the smaller colonies would each have representatives. Major decisions about humanity's interaction with the galaxy would require consensus. The Sovereignty's original offer stood 5 years of joint research and oversight. But now both Earth and Mars would participate. The technology would be shared, understood, and made safe before humanity expanded further. It wasn't perfect. No one got everything they wanted. But it was workable. Commander Taemin watched the final agreements being signed from his station above Earth. He had been following events through reports and recordings, and now he made a personal log entry. We showed the galaxy our supreme warship. We proved we could stand among the great powers. But in the end, the greatest challenge wasn't proving our strength to them. It was proving our wisdom to ourselves. He paused, choosing his words carefully. The Sovereignty has maintained peace for 12,000 years through overwhelming power and controlled development. Humanity rejected that path. We chose independence, innovation, and risk. But today we learned that freedom without responsibility is just another path to destruction. The Mars crisis reminded us that humanity isn't one unified voice. We're billions of individuals with different dreams, different fears, different ideas about what our future should look like. That diversity makes us strong, but it also makes us fragile. If we can't find unity among ourselves, how can we expect to survive in a galaxy full of species who have been navigating these challenges for thousands of years? The Defiant Dawn remains in orbit above Earth. Its fold drives are powered down, but it's ready.